With the beginning of the coldest weather in 2 years, but hey, pitchers and catchers report in just 3 weeks. It all depends on your point of view. I'm Charlie Sykes. Sunday Insight starts right now. Good morning and welcome to Sunday Insight. In the week that was the most moving, emotional, inspirational story in college football turns out to be a hoax. Notre Dame football star Manti Te'o's girlfriend, who supposedly died of cancer, turns out to be a figment of somebody's imagination. And the most emotional, inspirational story in bicycling turns out to be a fraud. Lance Armstrong goes on Oprah to admit that he's been doping and lying about it for all these years. What a surprise. The Packers season ends after a defensive collapse in San Francisco. The president pushes for gun control. The city of Milwaukee drops its discounted water program. You know, the one that was supposed to attract all those companies and all those new jobs after no company signed up, not one. Governor Walker gives his State of the State speech and pushes for new mining legislation and a middle-class tax cut. Speaking of the state capitol, a man is arrested for allegedly bringing Molotov cocktails to the Capitol. A hostage crisis involving Americans in Algeria. The president gets set for his inauguration to a second term in office. And Wisconsin adds 4,500 private sector jobs in December. But first, the debate over so-called co-sleeping deaths. Another baby dies while sleeping with his mom. 7-day-old son apparently suffocated while sleeping with a mom who had been drinking vodka and had taken pain medication. Milwaukee Alderman Bob Donovan last week called for prosecutors to bring charges against the Milwaukee woman. When warranted, he said, we need to start treating these co-sleeping deaths not as accidental deaths, but rather as deaths resulting from neglect and or abuse. Think about it, he said. If a parent falls asleep and their toddler wanders outside and is hit by a car, neglect charges would be filed. Here we have babies dying because of the neglectful behavior of a parent or guardian. And joining me this morning, political strategist Lynn DeBruin, former Republican State Representative Michelle Litchens, the Milwaukee Community Journal's Michael Holt, and Journal Sentinel columnist Christian Schneider. Okay, so let's start with this question. You know, is Alderman Donovan right? Should we start treating some of these co-sleeping deaths as criminal matters?
Absolutely. I think especially in the cases where the mother or the whoever has caused the death was drinking or under the influence of illegal drugs or even had taken medication that makes them unable to arouse quickly from sleep. If you make that decision and then follow it up with a decision to sleep with an infant, you're putting that child at risk. So in those cases, I think that you should consider criminal charges. There's been very few across this country, in fact, only a handful. But I do think that that would help not only with the prosecution of the infants and their justice, but also in getting these parents some alcohol and drug abuse treatment.
Okay, Michelle Litchens.
I think we really have to look at it case by case. I think co-sleeping is the normal practice worldwide. So when we talk about co-sleeping deaths, I don't think these babies have died necessarily from co-sleeping. I think I would agree with Lynn. They died from neglect, drug abuse by parents. And so I think when we're looking at prosecuting these parents, obviously this last woman, I do think she should be prosecuted.
Okay, Michael Holt. I mean, if in fact this woman had gotten behind the wheel of her car with that much vodka and with OxyContin in her system, whatever it was, the opioid-based pain medication, and she would have run over somebody or been in an accident, she would be charged with that. She would be held criminally liable. Why wouldn't we treat rolling over and smothering the baby in the same way?
Well, I think in this particular case, I think the DA is probably going to look at it, and it's been a few years.
We had very, very few
True,
charges.
but yeah, I think there's only one in the last 10 years or whatever. But we have to be somewhat careful here, because theoretically, and you were saying, co-sleeping, happens worldwide. It's culturally based sometimes. It's wrong, but it's culturally based. What if someone just happened to roll over on the child? So should co-sleeping be outlawed? Should it be a felony? You should not be allowed by law to sleep with your child? I mean, that's the natural progression of this. Is that where we're going next?
Well, the natural progression, though, is no. I mean, we don't ban driving. We ban drunk driving. We don't necessarily ban co-sleeping. But if, in fact, you have caused the death of your child and alcohol and drugs are involved, shouldn't that at least be the threshold?
Oh, yeah, they definitely should be charged.
Okay,
definitely.
Yeah, and I know that the devil's advocate arguments are that, that the mother is suffered enough once her child does die, and that, you know, taking the mother out of the home, then, you know, if she has other children.
That's what Alderman Joe Davis, issued a statement about that.
Right, but you know, I agree with everything that's been said here. You know, if you make the decision, as this mother did, to start drinking in the middle of the afternoon and then start popping pain pills, and then, you know, you have a seven-day-old child at home that you end up smothering, that's neglect, and that's a homicide right there. And
But that it still goes back to my question. Yep. Since we know what can theoretically happen from co-sleeping, whether you're on drugs, alcohol, or whatever, should we ban co-sleeping?
No, of course
not. You ban the drunken baby smothering.
Right.
See, part of the problem is I think we're not calling this what it is. If we had a debate in this culture about, you know, what do we do about drunken baby smothering, I think that people would have a certain amount of clarity. I think there's been this desire to treat it as with euphemisms, and as a result, I mean, look, the PR campaign hasn't worked, has it, Lynn?
No, and it's also very paternalistic in a retro kind of way. The idea that the person has suffered, absolutely, totally, you kill your child, that's a horrible life sentence. On the other hand, that doesn't mean that you don't need to face criminal charges for what you've done. It doesn't lessen the value of the life that you lost. And so the idea that we prosecute someone who kills someone else's child more than if you kill your own, it just doesn't make sense to me. The other piece of this that I do think could come into this is if you charge them criminally, there's always room within the legal system for a judge to do alternatives to incarceration if it's warranted. And Donovan's, look at his words, he said when warranted. But Milwaukee actually, with the prosecution in 2009, for a woman who did this, she got 2 years in jail and 10 years of supervision. That's not 25 like killing someone while intoxicated, but at least it's better than nothing.
Okay, now it's Sunday morning, the first day of the week. What has your glass half full or half empty? We'll start with you, Lynn.
Well, my glass should be half full because the governor last week in his State of the State address said that the state does not have a deficit because he made tough decisions. But it's actually half empty because if you use standard accepted accounting principles, the state actually has a $2.2 billion deficit.
Michelle Litchins.
I'm going to be a little bit easier than that. My glass is half full because we are halfway through winter, and I'm tired of being too cold, honestly. And it's half empty because our Packers lost. And so I'm a little bit sad that we're not going further.
Michael Holt.
Half full, you know, it'd be a very diverse audience there for the commemoration of Martin Luther King, the city celebration in particular. But it's half empty because then everybody goes home back to the suburbs and nobody talks about racism anymore.
Okay.
Mine's half full. The Bucks and Marquette are actually doing pretty well. Marquette snuck into the top 25 there. Half empty because my son's school has started this program called Code Red, where they start teaching children what to do in case somebody runs into the school and starts shooting up the school. I mean, they taught him that if you're in a stall in the bathroom, you have to jump up on the toilet to make sure that the shooter can't see you. It's just so depressing that we have to have these in schools now.
That's got to freak him out a little bit.
Freaks him out a lot.
My glass is half full because that nut job that showed up at the Capitol was caught before he could hurt anybody with the Molotov cocktails, with the alleged Molotov cocktails. But my glass is half empty because last week we found out there were hundreds of pages of death threats against Governor Walker and the legislators, and only 2 of them were ever referred to prosecution. What a sick joke. Still ahead on Sunday Inside, Governor Walker promises tax cuts in his State of the State address. And as we go to break, the White House releases the official presidential portrait for President Obama's second term. And just in time for her 49th birthday, First Lady Michelle Obama shows off a new hairstyle.
We're turning things around. We're heading in the right direction. We're moving Wisconsin forward.
A middle-class tax cut and new mining legislation. 6 months after surviving an historic recall effort, Governor Scott Walker delivers his State of the State address without the fireworks of the last 2 years. Walker pushed for a cut in state income taxes for workers making between $20,000 and $200,000 and used private sector union members to make his case for legislation to open northern Wisconsin iron ore mining. And last Friday, the governor got some good news when the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals upheld Act 10. So I want to ask you, Michelle Litchins, as a former Republican legislator, is the governor going far enough in this middle-class income tax cut? We have other Republican governors that are talking about eliminating the income tax cut. This seems like a relatively small one. Will it be enough to change the tax climate in Wisconsin?
I think it's certainly enough to start making a difference in the state. I think it might be easier than just trying to cut taxes across the board in the state of Wisconsin, but people who make between $20,000 and $200,000 a year, I think you're going to make a significant difference
Okay,
there.
well, why not roll back the Doyle income tax cuts, though? I mean, income tax increases. I mean, I remember when the governor was running, you had Jim Doyle, who had raised the top income tax rate to 7.75%. You had combined reporting. Why not roll back those tax increases?
I think it's a good place to start. We have 2 years. We have a lot of time to get a lot of things done, but just to start here and start the debate, I think is a good thing for Wisconsin.
Okay, Michael Holt.
Well, I have two questions. Number one would be, how are you going to pay for these tax reductions? Because they're going to create a void. And the second question is, didn't the governor sound a whole lot like Barack Obama? I mean,
no.
he said the exact. Well, he did. He said the same thing. You know, we're on the right track, but we got a lot more work to do. They were criticizing Barack Obama for saying the same thing during the campaign.
Okay, Christian, you know, it is interesting, you know, now that he brought this up, that you now have the conservative Republican governor who is talking about, you know, tax cuts for the middle class, that using that 200,000 number. That was the Obama number. Why wouldn't, I mean, you have a Republican majority in the legislature. Why not go for an across-the-board tax cut?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The speech that he gave the other night was actually kind of fairly middle of the road speech. I loved when he brought the miners out to talk about the mining bill. It almost looked like he was about to be protested, but then he switched it around. He's like, "No, I'm protesting you guys." But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, he's shown that when he really steps out there and does controversial things, the public kind of gives him credit for it, and this kind of seems fairly middle of the road to me.
Okay.
Well, when I listened to it, and I also read the transcript a couple times too, it seemed like he really was saying, I don't want the war of the last 2 years. There were some things that I thought were intriguing. The middle class tax cut was one I certainly was interested in. You know, on the other hand, there's pieces of it that really disturbed me. I mean, Wisconsin ranks 42nd in the country for job creation. And yes, has Walker done some things to try and help that? Yes. But we have so much farther to go, and he's nowhere near his 250,000 private sector job creation.
Then are you arguing that your Democratic buds in the legislature ought to vote in favor of this mining legislation? I mean, these are real-world, shovel-ready jobs that not one Democrat has voted to create.
Well, I'm a moderate Democrat, and I support the mining legislation. So I'm not in cahoots with the far left on this one.
Okay, now, Michelle Litchens, you know how the legislature works. Is that mining bill going to get through both houses of the legislature?
I certainly believe it'll get through this spring.
Okay, this spring. Okay, unsolicited advice, of course, is free advice, so we know what it's worth. So what do you have to offer in the form of unsolicited advice, Lynn?
Well, it's for parents as well as teenagers. This cold hitting this week is going to be horrific. Teenagers hate to wear coats and mittens and hats, and they've got to. Don't let your kids or your pets outside for very long.
Okay, Michelle.
And just to add on to that, wash your hands. Wash your hands and cough into your arms so that you're not spreading this flu around everybody else.
We have two moms on the Michael Holt.
To the president, prove that the pen is mightier than the sword or the gun. Sign your executive orders restricting guns.
Okay, Christian Schneider.
Mine goes to the Manti Te'o story. The media, we all got taken. I think the media should learn a lesson, check out their sources. I got stung by a hoax earlier this year, and I think I've learned my lesson. I hope everybody else has too.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to go with the Manti Te'o story as well. And my unsolicited advice would be, Manti, next time, get a real girlfriend. Coming up on Sunday Insight, Lance Armstrong comes clean, but is it enough?
Did you ever take banned substances to enhance your cycling performance?
Yes.
How the mighty have fallen. Lance Armstrong goes on Oprah to confess that yes, he used banned substances, and yes, he had lied and covered it up for years. Doping authorities have stripped Armstrong of all of his titles. He's lost his sponsorships and had to walk away from his cancer charity, Livestrong. So the Oprah interview was an attempt at redemption, but did it work? Will it be seen as an act of honest contrition or a cynical PR move to save his brand? Christian Schneider.
It's a cynical ploy to save his brand. I mean, the guy's essentially a thief. He made millions of dollars by cheating, by using a banned substance, and then conning everybody into believing that, you know, I beat cancer and you know, now
Well, he did beat cancer.
Yeah, he did. But to go the length that he did, you know, to win 7 Tour de France's, I mean.
Okay, now his argument is, I just leveled the playing field. Everybody was doing it. You couldn't win if you didn't dope.
Yeah, the real disappointing thing here is that you can't believe anything anymore. You can't believe, you know, the Teo story or the Armstrong story or all these home run records. I mean, you just, if something looks too good to be true, it almost always is now.
Okay,
that, you know, since everyone else does it too, that's a self-justifying excuse. There's no personal responsibility in that. I don't think, you know, I watched it. I don't think it didn't seem genuine. I think that he lied so many times, and he was so vicious in attacking and ruining the careers of some of his other teammates when they testified honestly. That how do you give redemption back to somebody who only told the truth after it was proven incontrovertibly that he did it?
Okay, but we have a long tradition of giving people second chances. Bill Clinton made a comeback. Michael Vick made a comeback. Martha Stewart made a comeback. Why not Lance Armstrong?
We as Americans are extremely compassionate people. People screw up and we say, you know, we're going to forgive you for it. We're going to give you a second chance. But we don't give people second chances when they intentionally hurt other people. Bernie Madoff, we're not giving a second chance to. Lance Armstrong did not feel, or he did not look at least even slightly emotional about his apology.
Okay, Michael Holt.
And what people fail to understand is he was actually charged with distribution. I mean, that was part of it because he brought in this little circle. But, you know, what he didn't understand was the #1 rule. When you go on Oprah's show, you have to cry. And if you don't cry, nobody's going to take you seriously. So nobody took him seriously.
Well, you know, part of that was he did seem kind of robotic, and you know, and Lynn, I think you made an interesting point there. It's not just that he cheated. We've had other athletes who've done it, you know, and we don't necessarily think that they are bad people. They did it to get a competitive advantage. But the thing about Lance Armstrong is how long he covered it up. His role as the basically the linchpin, as the lead conspirator, you know, perhaps urging and and bullying his fellow cyclists to be using these substances, and then the vindictive way that he went after them. The number of people, and I thought one of the most disturbing parts of that interview was when he acknowledged that he had harassed people who had told the truth about him. He had gone after them, but he didn't remember all the people he sued. So he went after people who had worked with him, tried to destroy their lives, and when he's talking to Oprah, he doesn't even remember that he did it. So yeah, I think we are willing to forgive a lot of things, and I think your analogy, Michelle, of Bernie Madoff is pretty good. With that if it was just the doping, maybe give him a second chance. But when you put together the entire decade, the fraud, the deception, the bullying, I don't think so. Let's gaze into the crystal ball. So what are you looking forward to this week, Linda Bruin?
Well, I'm looking forward to the 57th presidential inauguration. Whether you're liberal or conservative, we all have to be proud of 224 years of peaceful democratic elections and installations of presidents.
Okay, Michelle Litchens.
I am looking forward to the mining bill. I know it's not going to be voted on this week, but I know that it is gaining support across the state, including a liberal or a moderate Democrat here on the panel. So.
Yeah, I wasn't sure she was that definitive about it. Michael Holt.
Yeah, I too am looking for the inauguration. You know, this coincides with the 150th anniversary of Lincoln signing the Emancipation Proclamation, and the president's going to use his Bible along with Kings.
Okay. Christian Schneider.
I am hopefully looking forward to the Packers changing defensive coordinators. Their last 3 playoff losses, they've given up like 51, 45, and 34 points or something like that. How long does this have to go on?
So you're just not letting go on that, are you?
I'm not. I will not.
And when it was only a week ago. You know, doesn't it seem like a lot longer to go? No, I agree with Michelle on this one. I am looking forward to when the politicians stop bloviating about creating jobs and actually begin to create real-world jobs. Those jobs in northern Wisconsin, digging our natural resources from our own state, using equipment made by workers right here in Wisconsin. Next on Sunday Insight, our panel picks the winners and losers of the week. But first, here's your morning news update. It's time for our panel to pick the winners and losers of the week. Linda Bruin, you're first.
Well, my winner is President Obama for his common sense gun control ideas. He'll have a tough time getting some of the measures approved, but the ideas are sound. My loser is the NRA, whose new ad targeting the president's family was an appallingly bad idea. Obama gets about 30 death threats a day, a 400% increase since President Bush. And his children have mandatory security because harming members of the first family is a real and present danger and a national security threat. You'd think the NRA would want armed protection for the family of any president of the United States, but this reprehensible ad attacks Obama for having it.
Michelle Litchens.
My winner is Walmart, our nation's largest employer. Walmart heard of high unemployment among our veterans, and they stepped up to the plate and they said they would hire every veteran if they want a job. Walmart is walking the walk, and they should be commended for it. And my loser is Shanteen Lowe, a rapper from Atlanta who will no longer be starring in his own reality TV show on Oxygen labeled All My Baby's Mamas. Yes, this father of 11 children with 10 different women are disappointed that his show was cut before airing, so he is petitioning the network to reconsider. I consider that a loser.
Michael Holt.
Good luck on that idea. My losers, the community lost two significant community leaders this past week. Thomas Mitchell Sr., a religious leader, and Carlos Davison, who used karate as a mentoring tool. My winner, State Representative Leon Young, who was introducing legislation to make the legislature part-time. They only met 34 times last year. Is that full-time work?
Okay, Kirsten Schneider.
My winners this week are the writers at Deadspin.com, who were the first to uncover the fact that Notre Dame linebacker Manti Te'o's supposed dead girlfriend was a hoax. As one of my friends said, who could have imagined that Susie Favor Hamilton being exposed as a high-priced Vegas call girl would only be the second weirdest sports story of the last month? My loser is new Hollywood it girl Lena Dunham, who said she introduced a Republican character on her show Girls because she thought that for her character, dating a Republican would be like dating a Nazi. This is the same woman who compared the voting process to having sex, meaning she's probably doing one of them very wrong.
Okay, my winner, well, I agree with Michelle. Walmart and the veterans are the winners. A lot of folks talk a good game about veterans. Walmart put its money where its mouth is. It's a good business move and a flagrant act of good corporate citizenship. My loser, Lance Armstrong. The cheating was bad enough. The lying was worse. The years of arrogant bullying, well, case closed. Just go away, Lance. Thanks for joining us and join me for my radio show Monday morning on News Radio 620 WTMJ from 8:30 until noon. Have a great week.